Mark. Thanks for introducing me to the group here, and thanks for inviting me to speak. Yeah, there was plenty of other topics I could have spoke on, but I felt like this was something that I get asked by a ton of QEs whenever I go on site to different places about how to go into go from full time into consulting, and I thought it was something uniquely that I might be able to provide to the group. So I decided to do this, and thanks for letting me do this topic. There's a lot of different concerns and different unknowns out there when it comes to consulting, and I think with the right strategies, you can find it could be a really fulfilling lifestyle and career choice. I'm sure pretty much everybody here has probably worked alongside a consultant or contractor, especially if you're at a mid to larger organization at some point. So this is sort of, you'll probably see some of the different things that they got into that got them into consulting or contracting. And if you already are a contractor or consultant, hopefully you'll get some tips here that will help you run your business better or protect you liability wise, or maybe think about things differently in how you structure your consulting business, so on and so forth. All right. So like Mark said, my name is Sean Finlater. My company is Virtual QE, and that's my email here. If you want to reach out to me, it's just sfinlater@virtualqe.com. All right, so why am I presenting this to you? I started Virtual QE in 2015. My thing has always been, from when I started working in 2010, has been, why aren't we using some of the technology and tools and things in manufacturing that we use in everyday life? So that's always been my mindset, and so I came up with the motto of bringing quality into the 21st century. What happened in 2015, interestingly enough, is I met my leadership coach, and working with my leadership coach, he kind of helped me work over a lot of my different fears that I have, a lot of the different concerns, and really helped me to build in the leadership and negotiation side. And with his help and encouragement, I was able to start the consulting company. And in my first year, I was able to do 270,000 in revenue. And I know that is a lot of money. Don't get me wrong, it's a lot of money. But I want you to think about, in this case, what that means is that was about $130 an hour, if you look at it on like a 2,000 hour basis. Okay, and that is very possible. What's unusual is just that I was 5 years experience whenever I got that. But again, I'm gonna talk about different types of consulting and different types of contracting. Some have higher risk, but then higher risk generally higher reward. Something that I like to I think of myself when it comes to interacting with other people is I kind of see myself as a catalyst. And the official definition of a catalyst is any substance that increases the rate of reaction without itself being consumed. So I want to know where you want to go, and I want to help you get you there faster. So when I started talking to a lot of QEs and they're saying, hey, I want to go to consulting, and they say, okay, maybe when I'm 20 years experience, or maybe when the kids leave the house, or maybe when I want to explore whether or not if there aren't ways to work around it to either make your situation better and get to where you want to go faster. So that's just how I generally view life, and sort of my contribution in this world is basically trying to be a catalyst. And that's where I found the most success. Okay, so what I want to give you by the end of this presentation is a decision framework for how you're going to make that decision on going into consulting, if it's something that you eventually want to do. At least, at the very least, I want you to know if you're going to go into consulting, and if so, an idea of what's it going to take for you to do so. Okay. So I like to use this simple framework. You guys, everybody's seen this before. It's just why, what, how, when, where, right? Just those basic questions. And I use it to evaluate things to make decisions. So why would you want to move into consulting? There could be more money, which is definitely there. You could want more flexibility. You might want some more travel. That depends on if you take a contract or consulting gig locally, or if it's abroad. But most do involve some form of travel. If you want to change the scenery, in terms of, for me, I realized that I like, by the time I'm about 6 months to a year in a facility, I'm ready to move on to the next one. I want to see different products, different services, interact with different people. And that the consulting contracting side does that. Accelerate your technical skills. By far, this is one of the best aspects of consulting. Sometimes what happens in our quality worlds is that we kind of get this quality bubble that's, our company, this is how our company does things. This is why, this is where you learn from your quality knowledge. And sometimes it's right, and sometimes it's not the best way to do things, and sometimes it's wrong. Which is why sometimes consultants and contractors get hired in the first place. But what happens is, simply by going to all these different places and working in all these different companies, you get best practices simply by seeing how things work, taking the best parts of each contract or position that you have, and you grow tremendously. I mean, the people that I've met, the experts, one of the privileges that I've had is to work with a guy named Mark DeVraj, and he wrote several ASQ books, and he actually invited me to co-author the Six Sigma Black Belt Study Guide book with him. I never would have met him had I not been in this space, and he's been a great contact and great mentor for me. As far as really understanding the technical side of quality even more. Because remember, I started too when I was only 5 years experienced. And here's a great book that you can read. I suggest this for everybody. It's Start With Why by Simon Sinek. Great way to understand why the question why is so important, and why it helps to start there before you do anything else. So what can you expect pay-wise? And again, these are just what you can get in that age, that range where you're at. Sometimes you may accept less, sometimes you may get more, but this is generally where you should land. And then people are always surprised, especially when they see the numbers. But again, you break this down into hourly rates, and it'll make more sense. 1 to 2 years experience, you could be looking at 80 to 100,000. That's basically $40 to $50 per hour. Even the next after that is 110 to 130. That's basically 55 to 65 an hour, and so on and so forth. And it continues to go on. And the thing that's also important, besides the years of experience, because that's just one factor, another big piece of it is, what is your experience in? Is it in validation? Is it in supplier quality? Is there in sterilization? All these different things will increase the demand for your abilities. And if it's a sort of a niche type of field, then the supply is going down. And anytime those two things happen, then price goes up. Okay, so that's sort of the business side of the deal. And in general, you're going to end up being around $30,000 to $50,000 more than your full-time counterparts. I mean, you do also have to keep in mind that they do have benefits and things of that nature, but that is generally what it looks like. This is something I always like to show people too, is full-time versus 1099. And If you look here on the full-time, this is on $100,000 a year salary, all right? And this is for Florida. So we don't have state income tax or city income tax. Otherwise, what I'm about to show you is going to be even bigger. And on the right is 1099. So this is a contractor, independent contractor, and you see what they have to pay. Now, one major difference is that the 1099 person pays this at the end of the year, so they get to hold on to this money every single month. If they want to invest it, put it in a mutual fund or whatever it is for a little while, and then pay it up at tax time, they can do that and use the interest just like a bank. The full time, you're getting it taken out of your paycheck. And you can see here simply because you're going to end up paying less taxes due to all the different write-offs and things that you can do. And I use just basic write-offs here in order to calculate this. If you really got serious about the tax planning, and I'll talk about the tax side a little bit more. Again, I'm not a legal person, not a tax person. Let me qualify that. I'm just showing you ideas of what's out there and what's worked for me. You'll see here that there's a difference of $500 for the same pay, for the same annual salary, $500 per month. This is on a monthly basis. It's $500 difference per month. And if you're in a place like California or in New Jersey, I worked in New Jersey once, and that I was surprised to see how much state and city income tax that came out. It will make your jaw drop, but that also widens the difference. And that's something that you have to take into account. The general principle is more risk, more reward. And so as security goes up, pay goes down generally. So I do say perceived security because sometimes there's a tendency, because the paychecks come regularly with the full-time position, that there's a lot of security in full-time. And yes, there is some security in full-time, but again, it depends on the company, the strength and health of the company, your specific position and what you're doing. A lot of that is fairly the same. A lot of it that's different would be if it's a contract or consulting, there's usually a time limit on it. But as security goes up, in general, pay goes down. So you basically pay for that security that you have. The key, what I want to show you in some of this, is how you can reduce any of that risk that you have, or compensate or mitigate that risk. We're all used to risk mitigation. It's no different in the business world. So the what is consulting or contracting. And the definitions I'm going to use for consulting is more project work, statement of work, as consulting, where let's say maybe I want you to do internal audits at all my sites. It's not a 40-hour per week type of job. There's an actual project to it, and it's essentially get the job done, and this is how much you get paid. Contracting now is no different than full-time, really. And if you didn't see on like an email signature, or maybe if they didn't wear the company polo on Fridays, you would not know that they were a 1099 contractor as opposed to a full-time person. So that's something to distinguish between the two, and so that you understand when I say consulting, I mean project work or statement of work, or if I say contracting, I mean something very similar to full-time work, just as an independent contractor. So I want to talk about what I call indirect consulting, right? Which is what I call contracting. You have the client who has a need, which leads to a contract. The staffing firm is the one that works with the client to develop, and really hone that need into that contract. They'll get that contract. They'll look for quality engineers who can work that contract. So the staffing firm becomes that middleman there. All right. So a little bit about these indirect contracts here. So the staffing firm, very key, the staffing firm holds the client relationship. You as a contractor, you actually can be a W-2 or a 1099 to the staffing firm. So in that case, sometimes the staffing firm will offer you benefits. So not only are you getting a higher pay, sometimes the staffing firms will give you benefits. Now, generally, the benefits aren't as cheap as working for a company full-time, but they're still pretty good. Typically, it's Monday through Friday on site. You're traveling in once a week and traveling out, or you're traveling in once a week and traveling out every 2 weeks. Generally, expenses are paid by the client, but that's not always the case. You have to find that out. The pay can be 35 to 75% higher than full-time. And general lengths for the contract are between 3, 6, and 12 months. Generally, what happens is if let me just back up. There's rules to independent contractor relationships, and generally, doing longer than 12 months starts to make it seem like, okay, this person might not be an independent contractor; they might be an employee, and that's when the IRS will start looking at them and potentially investigating the client there. So usually you don't see contracts go longer than 12 months. It's not a hard and fast rule, but that's kind of like a rule of thumb. Usually if there is a need for the project to go longer, and I'm sure many of you could think of projects that go easily beyond 12 months, and they'll say, hey, there's 12 months with a strong possibility of extension. That's sort of like the inside term to say, hey, look, most likely it's going to get extended, so just be prepared for that. All right. Some of the pros of these independent contracts working through these staffing firms, they're easy to find, and it's very quick to onboard. You can be, if you are ready to go, you could have an offer within a week, ready to go someplace, and they could have you on site the next day. Right? That's how fast they can move. That does take a lot of coordination because usually, depending on the staffing firm, there could be drug tests and things of that nature, background check. But if they're willing to move fast and the staffing firm, thinks they're going to be a great fit, they might get some of that started fast. It literally can be done within a week. Or of course, if you work in some place full time, make sure you always. My mother told me this, and I tell everybody else. No matter what, no matter how good the situation, you always give your 2 weeks notice. Always. You never know how that may come back to hurt you otherwise, and it just helps the client, and it's just kind of proper etiquette. So no matter what the opportunity, always say I need 2 weeks from the time that I received the offer. Okay, and you don't put in your 2 weeks notice until you receive the offer in hand. One thing about this consulting and contracting world, everything is hope until you sign on the dotted line. Okay, so that's something to always keep in mind. The cons, you do get better pay than full-time, but there's still a middleman who's taking a profit. And generally, it's 30% on up of your pay because you're basically paying for them to find the work, to organize it, to carry the cash and pay you every 2 weeks while they're waiting to get paid. So that's a portion of it. Less control for after work. So after work, if you're not familiar, is sort of the term that we use in the consulting industry to basically call more business, generating more business. And one of the best things you can do that will make your staffing firm love you is to always be looking for after work. If you sense that there's a project that could come up, then you let your staffing firm know. All right, direct consulting. This is what I did when I got started. You have a client who has a need, and you yourself go to that client and you work with them to get the contract You either match yourself, or you diversify and hire some other QEs as well to get the contract. You accept it and you manage the project from there. You basically hold the client relationship. That's great. Some of the things about a typical contract, there's nothing typical about direct consulting, nothing at all. It's all on what you negotiate. The location, how often you travel, are expenses included, is pay, what your pay is, how long the contract goes. Everything is up to you to negotiate, all right? That's very, very important. And this is a big part of where my leadership coach came into play, was showing me how to negotiate, how to manage those times when fear comes in, when the negotiation happens, and how to move forward and recognize that you have a value that they're looking for. So some of the pros, best pay, you get to define the project, you have complete control of anything that comes afterwards. Some of the cons is that it is harder to find generally. It's going to take a sales and marketing effort. It takes longer to get on board. Some of these can last 3 months before you identify the need to when you actually have a signed contract where you're ready to execute. And sort of, I think this is a pro and a con, but most people, I think, might see this as a risk, is that success depends completely on you. And this is something that was a big change for me with my leadership coach is you can blame the client, you can blame these other people, but he said the best way to look at it is if you knew more about leadership, if you knew more about negotiation, if you knew more about business, if you knew about this, maybe you could have changed the situation and turned it out to get hired by that company. If you decide to go into consulting or contracting, I want you to have that mentality, because too many times I've read a book that makes me realize, oh my goodness, if I had just done that whenever I was in that last situation, I would have made a ridiculous amount of money. So which one should you go into, consulting or contracting? Well, the biggest difference is the business development side, the sales and marketing. If you don't want to do business development, don't even think about doing direct consulting. If you don't like it, don't do it. Just go to a staffing firm. Pay is good. You do the work. You get paid great. You go from there. If you don't like the thrill of closing a deal, managing the contract, really have that entrepreneur type spirit, just do the contracting. It's a great situation. It's a great win-win for you and for the staffing firm. All right, so the how. How do you do it? You network, and then you network some more. All right, that's huge. You need to also know a lot about yourself. Like, what is it that you want to do? Where do you want to go? Who do you want to talk to? Do you like talking to management? Do you like talking to individual contributors? And you got to know what it takes to leave. There's nothing more annoying, and I will say this because I've helped recruit different candidates, than you get somebody, every criteria that they were asking for, and they are not prepared emotionally to leave. It is not an easy thing. If you saw any of those things, you're like, oh my goodness, I'd love to have the more money, the more travel, the flexibility. Yes, those are great things in theory, but there is an emotional part to, you would say almost, it feels like you're taking a leap, okay? And it's not until you've actually done it before, you're like, okay, this really wasn't bad, that you get over it. But you need to be ready with everything lined up, your exit criteria, which we'll talk about later, ready to leave. And also, if something changes, you need to communicate. You know, sometimes you may talk to a recruiter, and the recruiter may not know that you are actually moved to a different location. I moved from South Florida to Palm Coast. There may be some things in Jacksonville that a recruiter would not have even known to talk to me about because I didn't let them know I moved. So that's absolutely huge. Or if you communicated a certain pay rate at one point, but if something changed in your life that you no longer need that pay rate and you're open to different things, or if your values change, you value a different location over the pay, then communicate those changes because that can make a difference in what opportunities you get to see. So that's an important part. I'll give you an example. My network right now, so I use LinkedIn primarily to do my networking, and then also just meeting and talking to different people. I have over 3,200 talent acquisition and recruiters in my LinkedIn network. I receive, I don't know, maybe 3 or 5 offers for a contract a day. Quality consultants connected first. These are first connections to 7,600. Quality engineers, 5,300. Why do I do network of quality consultants and quality engineers? Well, either I may have come across a project or business opportunity where I need to hire somebody, or they may come across something and they may think of me. Part of the reason I got to co-author that book is through this process. I reached out to Mark via LinkedIn, and he reached back out to me, and I've known him now for like 5 years now. So this didn't happen overnight. I generally spend 30 minutes to an hour every day doing some sort of networking in order to grow my network. And opportunities come when that happens. That's huge. So you need to start working on your networking. You come into ASQ meetings, that's a nice form of networking. So there's different approaches that you could take. And you're going to get these slides later, so I'm going to run through this and just talk about in general. There's an entrepreneurship approach. And that if you like that entrepreneurship approach, go to direct consulting. All right. But you got to love sales and marketing. As I said, you're going to have 2 full-time jobs, one being business development and the other actually doing the work. All right. And you cannot say things like, I can't, and they won't. All right. You could say it's unlikely, but you can never say those things, because if you do, those may be the very opportunities that you could have turned for your good. My suggestion, you do 1 business book and 1 leadership or negotiation book per month. Start building up that knowledge. You can even do that now. I do Audible, and I listen to the books while I'm in the car. I listen to the books while I'm cleaning the house, while I'm cooking dinner or something of that nature. I'm listening to these books so I can grow my knowledge, because I'm not kidding when I say one of these things could be the difference between you getting a 6-figure contract or getting no contract at all. I've seen it too many times. You can do a balanced approach. You can go through seasons where you do direct consulting, and then if you don't have anything because maybe you weren't doing a lot of sales and marketing, you can take a contract as a filler, take a break, take a few months, and then start back up towards the end of your contract and start looking again for some direct consulting. I recommend not doing longer than 6 months, though, because remember, you're trying to use it as a filler, because direct consulting in general is a better pay, it's a better situation, work-wise, a lot more freedom, so on and so forth. There's the I want to work the least approach, and this is what you can do. For example, if you make $80,000 full-time salary and you want to move into consulting or contracting, well, if you get $160,000, you work for 6 months, you take 6 months off. That's very possible. And there's people who do that, especially close to retirement. They'll spend 6 months cruising the world and then come off and come do a 6-month contract. So it's up to you how you want to structure it. There's the I just want to work. I don't want to think about anything else. Just basically do the full time, and just continue to work. Then you can just do that. Do independent contracting, and then don't worry about sales and marketing. You just work as much as you can. Try to look for those projects that will pay you the most. And these are great if you want to just save money or pay off debts or things of that nature. So I want to run through a couple of things here with the business entity. I want you to understand how you're seen by the government, okay? All right, so let's pretend that this is the government here on the left and this is you here on the right. Sometimes one of the mistakes, I do think this is a mistake, whenever you go into contracting or consulting, you go in as a sole proprietor, which means that it's just you. When they contract with you, or the client contracts with you, they see you, okay? They see your business. Or sorry, they see you as a person. There's no business around it, it's just you, all right? What I recommend is you get an LLC, a business entity that stands between the government or your client and you, okay? And this is important for liability and tax reasons. And again, you look through, talk to your accountant, talk to your lawyer in your state, and there's plenty of articles about this. You can YouTube and listen to different articles on this, but there's tax savings that come with having an LLC. You're able to get taxed as different types of corporations, which helps you with your tax planning. You get liability protection. If you look in this case, if let's say this is the client, they can come after your LLC if you make a mistake, but unless what you do, what you call mixing or piercing the corporate veil, they can't come after you. So if you have income from other areas, maybe rental properties or whatever it is, they can't come after you. All right. When you pierce the corporate veil, then basically what that means is when you're commingling your funds, you're mixing your personal and your business account, and if they want to, the client or whoever it is, the government can say, hey, you're not really two separate companies, you're really one. So that's something you want to make sure. And the state you form in matters. So some of the more popular states are like Delaware, Nevada, Florida is also a good one as well. And there's certain protections or certain states that give you more protection than others. Again, talk to your accountant, talk to your lawyer to understand a little more. But you can make sure you do your research before, like look at articles for things in your state before you talk to them, so that you can have an efficient conversation, because they charge by the hour. Get yourself a business account and get yourself a personal account. This is a great way to not pierce the corporate veil. This is very easy to do. All of this, getting your LLC, getting your business account, you can do literally with almost 3 to 5 days. You can do all those things. So it's not even like you have to have this all set out before you even start looking at being a consultant or a contractor. All right. So creating your business entity, some things that you need to know, you need to do a preliminary search to see if that name's already taken. And if you're doing an LLC, most states do require that you have limited liability company, LLC like this, or L.L.C. in your name. So you can't kind of hide it behind something. Unless you're doing a DBA, doing business as, then you can put it, you can have a name that does not have LLC in it, but your legal name must have this in it. You can use a UPS box as your place of business. You don't have to put your home address, which is nice, because then you don't end up, having to put your home address on different, documentation, things of that nature. And the good part about the UPS box is that it's a street address. It's not a PO box. You can't do certain things with a PO box. You have to have a street address. Even to this day, I still use a UPS box as my place of business. One thing that's very interesting that you want to know is that the 2-year mark is a very important mark for your company when it comes to people recognizing your business. Things like business loans, car loans, buying a house. These things require 2 years running a business generally in order to make those things actually happen. This is risky for them as well. A lot of businesses fail when they start, so this is a way for them to see, hey, are you working? Are you still making revenue? Are you still making a profit? And is that profit going up, or was there a dramatic drop off from year 1 to year 2? It just gives them a little comfort, and so that's very, very important. So what that means is it's even good if you want to start your LLC or whatever company it is today, even if you don't have it. So at the very least, you have that time for that the company's been operating. Okay, that's very big for you to have, and that you can get to as soon as possible, because you have some nice advantages there. For your bank account, you choose your bank. Biggest thing to watch out for monthly minimum fees. Okay, that's a big one. Get QuickBooks Self-Employed. All right, you link your bank accounts to it. It's very easy. Literally every time you swipe your card, it pops up. You guys have all done travel expenses before. The only thing you have to do with QuickBooks, you categorize your expenses, you send that over to your accountant, and it's easy. All right. I use OneDrive, but you can use anything that you want. Google, even phones these days have so much storage you probably could store on your phone, but I suggest uploading it to the cloud someplace. Take pictures of all your receipts. You want to keep track of all of those things as well. Accountant, choose wisely. Again, they're not all the same, and they don't all have the same amount of knowledge. And experience in terms of working in a specific area matters, not just pure years of experience. There's a lot of things that I learned through even things like YouTube videos, books, Rich Dad, Poor Dad books, things of that nature that I found a lot of accountants do not know about that can actually save you money. And in general, you're going to pay in order for them to do the tax returns for you, but they're worth their money. A good accountant is more than worth their money when you see what they can do for you. My accountant, his name is Brian Rivera. He's been my accountant for the past 5 years. He's fantastic. I thank God for him every day. I'll never forget that first year when I was doing my own taxes, and he saved me like 20% off my taxes, and it's off of very simple, very straightforward stuff. And this is, again, it's all legal. You're following the rules that are there, but these rules have been put in place in order to encourage you to operate your business, because that's actually, small business like these are actually the driving force of the economy. Believe it or not, like 50-something% of companies in the United States are between 0 and 4 employees. So we're important, and the government likes us, so they give us good tax breaks. An example of how your LLC can work with profits is the client pays the LLC, which is your LLC. You're 100% owner of the LLC, but they receive the revenue and keeps the profit. So you take what's called distributions, which is like the profits from a company, and you pay yourself what's a reasonable wage, like a full-time employee. All right, and that helps you in tax planning. It's a nice trick that you can do with LLCs and things that you can't do if you're just a sole proprietorship. So that's just one tip there. It can save you a lot of money when it comes to the FICA and the Social Security. And it's very interesting when you learn all these things. You start understanding why all the laws are the way they are, and how these places like Amazon get away with $0 in tax, legally. General liability protection is very important. You got to have that, especially if you're doing direct consulting. You want to have that. It's very cheap. It's like $30 a month with Hiscox. to get $1 million policy, but most places want $1 million. So get $1 million at least. It's usually like $1 million, $2 million on aggregate. It's what is kind of the terminology. I say I like this, not everybody gets it, but I get professional errors and omissions. No matter how good you are, you can make a mistake. I haven't heard of anybody ever getting sued for it, but the two of these cost me $99 a month. Gives me peace of mind that if anything happens, I'm covered. You know, and that's a great way to go, I think. It also shows the business that you're serious, that you're not just there's a lot of doubt sometimes when you start your own consulting company or your contractor and you go talk to a different client. When you have this type of insurance, especially as a consultant, talking to the client, it just adds a certain level of professionalism and credibility to you. Benefits. So obviously, if you go into consulting or contracting, and contracting as a 1099, again, if you're a W-2 through a staffing firm, they usually do offer you benefits. But the health insurance, short-term and long-term disability, 401k, things of that nature, that's something that you have to cover on your own. So when you're deciding how much you need in order to make that leap into consulting or contracting, work that into your quote. If you're making $80,000 a year and you're saying, I want to get to $100,000 a year, then if you get a quote and it's going to cost you $2,000 a month to cover your family, then know that you need to look for contracts that offer you at least $120,000 or more in order to cover the cost of getting benefits. And these plans are just as good. They're ACA compliant. They're just as good as anything that you're going to get from the employers. The only difference is that the employer is generally paying a portion of your premium. That's why it's so much cheaper. And obviously, you're within a group. Of course, a group makes it cheaper as well. So you can get it as an individual. You could go along as a staffing firm. We at Virtual QE, we know that this is a huge problem with consultants and contractors out there. And I'm actually looking to spend some marketing dollars myself. So basically, what I'm doing is I'm going to be offering to insurance to anybody working part-time for me who's going to do some sort of marketing effort as a quality engineer. That sort of marketing effort coming from a quality engineer, quality consultant makes a difference. And I think it's a nice trade-off to have that insurance piece there. So if you're interested in that too as well, you want to know more about it, feel free to reach out to me if you're already a consultant or contractor. And then I'll have a little bit, it'll be a better price because it will be more of us as a group. But reach out to me and let me know if that's something that you're interested in. But big idea here is get the quote, know what you want to get, roll it into your rate, okay? You're not gonna, if you get out to consulting, I had a call once with somebody one-on-one and they're talking about consulting, their biggest hindrance was the benefits package. And, I've let them know that, look, there's a lot of people out there who aren't full-time and they're not walking around here without benefits, all right? It's a common thing out there. It's a huge market, so keep that in mind. Again, I've brought this before, if you make a mistake, or accident, the LLC is liable. You are not liable. All right. There's some things that can come onto you, but then again, it's the LLC is the main function here, and there's certain things that can happen that can push through, but this is your best line of defense to have an LLC in your name, or LLC in front of you, and not having your relationship be directly between you and the company. Now, the good part about our profession and our side is, liability and lawsuits, very rare. I don't think I've ever heard of one, with our profession. But again, it's possible, so that can happen. The other part too is if you have multiple things, like if you have rental property, um, if your rental property does something where there are lawsuits in that, then the profits and things that you make in your LLC that you work for in your quality, they can't come after that. They can come after your other items, but not after that. So this is how the super rich basically get away with people trying to sue them for anything. You can't touch them. You go to try to sue them. They don't own anything. It's their LLCs and their companies. They own everything, and they just own the LLC. So talk to your lawyers and your accountants about that. But it's a great way to protect yourself, and you start to understand a little more about what's all the possibilities out there for you going to consulting or contracting. If you do go into consulting, make sure you get a EIN number, employer identification number. It's like a social security number, but it's for your business. All right. And that way you're not putting your social security number on documents and like, vendor approval, vendor list applications, things of that nature. It's very simple. It takes like 5 minutes. You get it immediately unless there's a question that they have for you. Very simple. Now, where do you want to be? Okay, that's a big one. Where do you want to be? All right, so you could be in big cities where there's some of your there's demand is for what you're looking for. You could be in airport hubs like Atlanta, Minneapolis, Miami. If you're in a small town, suggest going to be in commuting distance to an airport. Another good option is to be in a medium-sized city. Be in a medium-sized city that has direct connection to an airport hub. A good one like that is like Kalamazoo, Michigan. You can go into Detroit or O'Hare pretty easily. Last but not least is when. Okay, biggest thing, you have to sit down and you have to decide this. What is my exit criteria to leave? All right, how much money do I want to make? How long of a project do I need? I want to, if you might say, hey, I'm not sure about this. I want to be as secure as possible. I want to take a 12-month contract. All right. Is your family on board? Talk to your family about what things will look like, especially if you're doing direct consulting, because it'll be different. There's a lot more, you say, risk involved and a lot more ups and downs. Taking contracts is almost just like working full time. So that's not as big a change. But otherwise, the family side for direct consulting is something that's important. Are you emotionally ready? Again, like I told you before, that's people underestimate how big that is. I try to tell people, kind of visualize what it looks like to say all your goodbyes, all your hey, I'll talk to you later. Hey, let's keep up in touch, and then turning in your computer, because it is an emotional situation. It's a different emotional situation than when you've gone from full time to another full time position. All right. What doubts do you have about yourself? This is important. Don't let this linger and hide, because they come up when it's time and ready to sign on the dotted line for that contract. And then you have not only a recruiter frustrated with you, but you have a client frustrated with you. Recruiters don't have a problem with you turning positions down. They do have a problem with you making them look bad by stringing them along the entire process, telling them you're ready, and if they meet this criteria, all these criteria, that you'll get ready to go, and you'll leave. All right. And my big thing is avoid what I call the spiral of death. It's kind of exaggerated, but it's so important. It's why I gave it this title, and it's managing your personal finances. All right. If you go from full time to consulting, live like you're still on a full time salary. Don't go crazy. Save your 3 months of expenses. It's feast or famine in this world. There's gonna be times when you can't turn down a contract. Contracts are coming from left and right. Projects are coming left and right, and there's gonna be times when there's nothing. All right, especially if your network isn't developed yet. So keep that in mind, please, and manage those personal finances. I want to take a couple minutes here real quick and tell you just a little bit about the services that we have. My whole goal, I've realized, a passion of mine is to really help the quality engineers and kind of support both the full-time and the consultants. And so I've developed several online courses, and I have some in development now. One that I have is how to pass any AXQ course. Within 3 days of preparation. It is a reference test. It is not a knowledge test. And I show you how to pass any one of them. That's how I have all those certifications, and I walk out the test with an hour left. It's not because I know so much about quality. It's because I recognize that it's a reference test, and I just needed a system to reference the information like we do in regular QE world. We don't all know AQL sampling tables by heart, at least not most of us. Some of the other courses that developing is the Quality Consultant Guide. So it'd be all the detailed information that I've gone over. It'd be even more detailed, way more detailed, walk you through how to do it. One thing that I'm developing as well is called a simulated virtual quality experience. You know, let's say that you haven't done any process validation, and there's tons of positions and contracts out there for people with process validation experience right now. I can't find enough of them. What my goal here is to have you write your TMVs, write your IQ, OQ, PQs, all of those different things, and so that you, for a sample company, so that you get the experience that you need in order to get ready to move into that contract. Because how do you get that experience unless somebody gives you the opportunity? So I'm going to do that in process validation, PPAP, supplier quality, and auditing. And this is a link to the online course that has that. There's also virtual quality engineering services. So if anything that you want to be done remotely or that can be done remotely to support your QEs that are there, maybe taking care of non-conformances, doing trend analysis, complaints, things of that nature. We do recruiting and staffing services. We leverage our network of recruiters, and we have some preferred partners that we work with that we recommend to anybody, and that's who I'll put you to first. And then from there, we'll keep shopping you around until you find a position that meets your exit criteria. Also, if you at your company needs contractors, again, I have a huge network. Please, feel free to reach out, let me know what your needs are, and I'm sure we can meet them. I work with some great staffing firms besides just myself, so please reach out if you're interested. And then we also do virtual auditing. So I know that that's something that has been talked about quite a bit here. And it leverages a 360 camera. Looks like this. And it allows you to actually perform 360, look around and see around the complete room virtually using things like Zoom and Teams and whatever conference software that you have. So it integrates very well. We either teach you how to do it or we perform it for you if you don't have the expertise or the people there inside. One thing I would ask for you to do before, when you receive this, please just go on and fill out the survey. Let me know if the information was good for you. If you do, I'll send you a discount code for the online courses and a booklet to get you started if you're interested. And if you want to book an appointment with me just to talk things over, or you just want to explore, just hit my calendar here and you can automatically book time with me. All right, I have about 5 minutes or so for questions. Feel free to send me an email or anything if you have any other questions. So Mark, how do I see these questions here? I go to the chat.
Theoretically, they should come through the chat. And I haven't seen any coming up at this point.
So how many employees do you have on staff? So I don't have any employees. I just utilize my network, and this is part of why I focus on getting such a big network is I don't know when people are available whenever I have the business. So then what I do is I have such a large network, then I reach out and I find who's available in my network in order to work. We come together, they work under me as a company, and then we'll contact with you. So we can do everything, any type of quality technical thing that's needed, even including project management, all of those things as well. With the current restrictions, has this business model switched to consulting from a distance by phone video? Some cases, yes. A lot of people are looking just for local people. A lot of people are doing remote until COVID ends. That's a big one as well. So that's very important. Probably one of the biggest things that you can do is what I was mentioning here on is this experience here. Go out and get these experiences that you see that are popular on these contracting roles that are out there. Once you have them, then now you just entered a whole nother group of opportunities to pull from. You know, if you talk to so many people and you say, hey, you know, do you have process validation experience? Oh, no, I don't. No, I don't. So then you find someone and they're not available till, 6 months. So it's very key to start working your way around and getting different experience. Volunteer if you need to in your company to get the experience. But that's why I'm creating this, so that it gives you a chance to, on your own time, to develop and say, hey, you can say on your resume now, I've written, 20 IQ, OQ, PQs. I've done, TMBs, and these are going to have real drawings with real procedures, real non-conformances from, I'm working with a company, I'm getting they're going out of business, but I'm getting all of their documentation that they were going to shred anyway. But I'm going to use that for this quality experience here and kind of use it to meet a need that a lot of the people that I work with, all the different consultants and contractors that they have, and when they're lacking experience in a certain area. So that'll be exciting. That should be coming out in the first quarter of 2021. So stay tuned for that. The last question. Oh, thank you. Appreciate that, Manuel. I appreciate that a lot. Again, please, guys and girls, please, if you have any questions, go on, book an appointment. Just come talk to me. I love doing this. You're not bothering me. This is one of my passions that I discovered after these 10 years of working, is really working with you guys and helping you get to where you're going. It's one of the greatest joys when I get to see you get that first paycheck or make that leap and you see just how great it can be. All right. Good to you. Thank you, Dallas. Appreciate that. Any other questions? Thank you, everybody. Thank you for the comments. Thank you. Well, in the last bit that I'll leave you with then is, please go after it. You have one life to live, to go after what you want. No regrets. All right. Find a way. Talk to me. Talk to colleagues. Talk to contractors you work with. Just investigate. Nothing happens. You don't have to make a decision. You don't have to. You just let's get information. And really see what can happen and what the possibilities are. You might be surprised at how much closer it is than you thought, which is what happened with me. So thank you guys. I really appreciate it for joining. Take care and have a good night.
Thanks, Sean. We really appreciate it.
Pleasure. My pleasure to present to you guys. All right. Margaret, send you guys the PowerPoint and take care. Have a good night.
Thanks, Sean.